Tanya, welcome to the studio, and thanks for coming down this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah, and do you want to just introduce our audience a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a marketing consultant, and I run a limited company called Cyclone Marketing UK, and we work with our clients to try and help them grow their businesses and achieve their growth ambitions through marketing.
Cool. And a limited company and all of that stuff sounds very, very cool, and it must have taken a while to get to that point.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's been a journey. It's been a really fun one, with obstacles as well along the way. So although it sounds very glamorous at this point to have a limited company, it takes some hard graft, and it has done to get there. So it all sort of started back in 2005 when I graduated from Northampton University, actually, so just down the road. I studied media. And as a result of that, I went into my first... Actually, I was in an admin job at the time. So I worked 1 day a week while I was at uni.
Cool.
And I loved the business and the people. And I kind of didn't really want to go anywhere else. But it was a fairly big company. And one day, after I graduated, I walked into the marketing director's office. And I just said, Paul, can we have a chat? I mean, it took me some courage to actually get myself into the room. But I sat down. He went, oh, come in. I sat down and I sort of said, look, I've graduated in media. I've got an interest in marketing. I'd really like to work for you in the marketing department. He sort of looked at me as if to say, you're crazy. Like, just because you've got a degree now, you think you can just step into a job. But, I had the experience of working in the company already. And he said, look, there's nothing at the moment. There's no marketing jobs on the board. But he said, leave it with me, and if anything changes, I will let you know. Maybe we can have a chat further down the line. So 3 weeks later, he walked over to my desk and he said, Tanya, there's an opportunity that I think you might be interested in. And I said, oh, really? And he said, it's a marketing assistant role, and I think you should apply for it. And I thought, wow. So yeah, and I think everybody that I was working with at the time in the admin team were just looking at me like, you must be crazy. Like, no, this guy Paul, everybody was sort of a bit nervous of him because he was like really high profile in the business. Right. He was one of the 3 directors, and I kind of just sort of plucked up the courage and thought, he's just a person. At the end of the day, we are all just people, aren't we, right? So, and actually, he's a lovely person, and we are still friends now. So I was 21. Cool. I was fortunate enough to get the role. So I stepped into my first marketing role at the age of 21, and 19 years later, so I'm telling you my age now. Yes, I'm still working within marketing and very much immersed in it still. So yeah, it all kind of started way back.
And I guess that's such an important thing, isn't it? It's like everyone is just people, and that, like, I can imagine at 21, I mean, takes some courage to just walk in somewhere and be like, hey. But if you didn't put that out there, then when that marketing assistant job comes up, you wouldn't be in that guy's head, you know what I mean? As someone like, oh, I know they'd be interested. Like,
I kind of would have missed that opportunity, I think, if I hadn't kind of had that conversation to begin with. And lucky enough that he then approached me and said, look, it's on the board, we do have to interview others, and we went through a proper process. But I think I had that advantage because I'd already been working for the business while I was at uni, that 1 day a week to pay off some of my student debt, that I was, an advantage to get the role. So yeah, it went from there. And then that company actually funded my CIM marketing qualification, because although I'd studied media, but I needed to, and I knew I kind of wanted to go into marketing, but didn't know how to connect that link between media and marketing.
Right.
So I had to further my education while I was working full time. I did a postgraduate CIM qualification with the Chartered Institute. So I worked full time during the day, and then 2 evenings a week I was at college from 6 till 9, And then I had to do all the like the studying and reading and assignments and in my own time, and then the prep for the exams. That must have been crazy.
Yeah.
But at that point in life, you have lots of energy, right? So I remember thinking to myself, I just need to put the hard graft in now. I got married at 27, had my first child at 29, had my second child at 33. So it all kind of, I wanted to kind of fast track my career before I had children, which then allowed me to kind of take a little bit of a back step while they were very young. And by the point that I had children, I was working at the Volkswagen Group. So I was able to have maternity leave, which gave me a little bit of time with the kids, which was really nice and really important, right? So going back to the human element, you can be really, really successful. But I think when you become a parent, you do need to take a little bit of a sidestep to make sure that, you know, you give them everything you need to help them grow as individuals as well.
It's basically a second job, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I say mother's work, but a parent's work is never done. So yeah, the day job and then the parent job as well.
Yeah. And then when did Cyclone come in?
So I've been running Cyclone for almost 3 years now.
Cool. Okay, so similar age to us here.
Yeah.
Nice.
So 3 years. So I guess going back in terms of a timeline, I worked for a couple of quite big corporate companies before I did various different roles within those companies over the duration of my career up until the point of me setting up my own limited company. So my last corporate role was at Volkswagen Group, and I was there for almost 13 years. Covered various roles across different brands. And the nice thing, and it was a great company to work for, and the nice thing about being in the company was that you got to work across different brands, because Volkswagen, they own Seat, Skoda, Cupra, Audi, VW, so and more. So there was plenty of opportunity to move around brands if you wanted to. And even though I didn't move across lots of the different brands, I was able to work across brand projects. So you got exposures to different levels of brands. So, you know, you might be working with some of the more premium brands and some of the smaller brands, which then gave you more opportunity because there was more opportunity for growth. So I tended to kind of want to work with the smaller brands to see them grow. Yeah,
I see. And I guess it's a very different ball game for each one versus different brand guidelines and ways they approach marketing and things.
So if you think about the brands within the group, they've got very different target audiences. So your Seats of this world would be sort of going for a very much younger demographic, whereas your Audi audiences, for example, much more kind of higher earners. And people that are genuinely interested in more premium brands and that can afford those types of brands as well. So you get quite a lot of exposure for the different things that happen across group without going into too much detail. Yeah,
of course. Which probably also gave you a good jumping off point for when you did start Cyclone, because you were used to working with different sort of styles and techniques and stuff, and you had some experience with all of them. So whoever came your way, you kind of had something to offer them that was unique to them, not just a kind of blanket, this is what it is.
Yeah, and that was kind of my catalyst for wanting to set up on my own. So I think with big corporate companies, it's difficult to make quick changes. There are lots of rules, guidelines, hoops, budgets, sign-offs that you need to go through. And that has to happen within those companies, because that's just the way that it needs to work to get things right. And I wanted to be able to step away from that and work with sort of medium enterprises where they had so much potential to grow but maybe don't have the expertise within marketing to make it happen. So the brands that I tend to work with now are kind of medium-sized organisations who have a fair-sized marketing budget to invest but maybe just don't know how to invest it. So that's where I would step in and work with them to kind of make sure that their marketing strategy is completely aligned to their business strategy and their goals. So I guess on the first conversation, I will say, well, where does your brand want to be in 3 to 5 years' time? What are your ambitions? And they'll say to me, well, how can you help us get there? So that's where we start to work on a strategic plan, a strategic marketing plan. And the aim is that Cyclone Marketing help them steer their campaigns, their projects, all of their marketing in the direction of where the business needs to go.
Yeah, because there is sort of a temptation of, like, when it comes to marketing, running business, to be like, oh, if only I had the budget, you could just throw that money somewhere almost, and it would just magically translate into results. But that's almost definitely never the result.
No, exactly. I mean, you do see, so I've taken on brands before where I will do a marketing audit, maybe not myself, but either myself or another member of the team that I work with. We will carry out marketing audit. So I work with lots of different specialists across different areas of marketing. So I work with a CRM marketing specialist, a PPC specialist, SEO, and website. So the whole marketing mix we've got covered. So we'll work to generate an audit for that brand that's coming on board. We'll look at what they've been doing, what they've been spending, what their results have looked like over the last 12, maybe 24 months. And we'll say, okay, this is where we think you may have been going wrong. So maybe they haven't got the balance quite right. The budget hasn't quite been split correctly across platforms. It may be that they have completely sort of not touched on the customer loyalty element, where, for example, they've been so focused on trying to get new clients in at the top of the funnel, or new customers in at the top of the funnel. They've maybe ignored their loyal or their current customers, where they could have been leveraging those to upsell, to sell again. So, we'll carry out the marketing audit, look at what the potential problems might be, then make some recommendations, and if they want us to, then we would deliver those recommendations through the expertise in the team that we work with.
Cool. And I know obviously you said Cyclone's only been around for 3 years, but you've been involved in that world for a while. How's it been changing? Because it feels, life in general seems quite rapidly evolving. So I imagine you've seen things that maybe worked when you first started that are now kind of falling out of favour, and replacing with new sort of techniques and, areas.
Yeah, so every day's a school day in marketing, I think. It's ever evolving, it's rapidly changing. I think our culture is changing, the way we consume media is changing. And I think if you think about the way we engage and consume with media now, I guess from a brand perspective, when you think about social media, it's the only form of media where you're not just telling somebody about how good your product or service is. It's a platform where people can openly have that two-way conversation with you. So you're not just having a conversation with your customer, that's being exposed to so many other people. So I think the way we are interacting, engaging, consuming is changing. I think if we look back 10 years and we think about the way we use websites, for example, it was very much about the brand telling us again about their product and why we should purchase their product, rather than actually having anything prior to that. So now I think we engage so much with social. Before we even get to a website, I think we've already made a decision about the product, the spec, what we actually want it to do for us. So I think the only reason we actually tend to visit a website now is when we want to make that purchase, because we've been exposed to so much already through social media, through reviews, through customer feedback videos, through looking through their comments and how the way those brands are responding to people. And it's about having that trust and that kind of decision already made before you click through to the website. So I think the role of platforms is changing over time, and I think sort of further down the line, I question what will happen maybe with websites, because if the social media platforms get smart enough to be able to create an actual shop that works and works well, I guess what's then the purpose of the website? But it might just be the fact that the purpose changes and that evolves over time, like it has done over the last 10 years.
Well, that's already kind of happening, right? When you say social media has an actual shop, like these things do have shop functionalities and things like for our bookshop, you can purchase them pretty much straight through Instagram now. Which then again, it does start to make you question what's the website actually for. I guess the website has a bit more. Obviously, an Instagram page is an Instagram page. You can't move things around or place it how you want. So I guess a website's a good way to communicate maybe the structure of a business, as social media tends to only give people what you've done in the last week with your last top post.
Although saying that, they've actually just released some news a few days ago saying that they are actually now allowing, or not, I think it's from, they're trying to develop something within the Instagram app which will allow you to move your grid around as you want to.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that is going to be so beneficial, isn't it, to brands? Because I know from myself on my own Instagram channel that you can only obviously pin your 3 posts at the top. And then once you start to move things around, it all then goes out of kilter. So it would be great for brands to be able to, sort of pull something up from the bottom if they want to and highlight it and make it a bit more sort of appealing to the eye based on what they want to do on their
and you don't have to worry as much about.
So it kind of is becoming more of a shop front in a way, and hopefully we'll have that functionality in not too distant future where Instagram will allow you to sort of organise your grid in the way you want to rather than based on a timeline. But I kind of see it as very much being kind of forward thinking in that way, and it is kind of because Instagram could potentially turn into your shop as well as your shop window. But I think it probably won't fully happen until they really have, you know, the capabilities. If you think about, you know, buying a car, it's your spec, your functionality, everything that goes inside it. You need to be able to select and you just can't go to that granular level at this point. But I guess it's just a matter of time, right?
Yeah, probably. And the thing is, it's interesting to see, like, especially with younger audience, right? They're not using Google anymore. They are using Instagram and TikTok and things to find stuff. So they like you said, that audience is already at that point of like not even going to the website. Like we have a lot of younger photographers and stuff like that because obviously we're like younger age spectrum as well. But it's normally the younger ones that very rarely use the website to book. They're always dropping us messages and on Instagram and being like, hey, is it available then? And like we're obviously happy to reply because that's where like how they do it, and it almost in a strange way is it's the convenience of it for us, because emails you have to be at you can email from your phone, but most of the time it's like when you're at your desk you check your emails sort of thing. As Instagram messages, it's anywhere, so people can message while we're out and we can still get back to them, and then they send us a few photos like, oh, we want to do something like this, and it's just very kind of
fluid, isn't it, in the way that you need to work now. And I think that's the thing, we are becoming more fluid as a nation in the way we are engaging with people, and brands need to be absolutely on top of that as well. So you know, it's about being available when the customer wants to talk to you. And I know that, you know, brands can't work 24/7. I guess they potentially could, and they probably don't want to. It costs a lot of money to have somebody, you know, managing their community all day, every day, and through the night. But yes, it's about being available as much as you can and having like reasonable response time. So when somebody actually, say for example, you're running a paid ad campaign on Facebook and Instagram, if somebody makes a comment, then you kind of want to have a time frame that you deem as reasonable. And I see that when you respond to something within a couple of hours, it improves your algorithm. So where you're spending money on social through advertising, you also need to kind of think about the resource that you're putting into it to make sure that when you are present in those platforms, you're actually ready to engage. Because otherwise, you know, a platform where nobody's communicating with you is a dead one, right? So it's probably more damaging than not having a channel at all if you're not there and not ready to engage and be present and be able to respond.
And that's another interesting thing you just said was your algorithm, as there's a lot of people say the algorithm, as you've said yours, so I assume that was a deliberate so
I tend to say yours because of the way that I communicate with my clients. So I think your algorithm as a brand is only as strong as the effort that you put into the work you're doing on social media. So I think when people talk about the algorithm, we generally talk, you know, amongst marketing media specialists, we'll say, you know, the algorithm. But when I'm specifically talking to my clients, I'll talk about their algorithm, because we need to make sure that their algorithm is always on top form, because they're putting money into media. They've got ad campaigns running where we need to make sure that everything we're doing across organic, across paid, across the community engagement is helping to build their algorithm, to make it stronger, to make every penny they spend absolutely worth the while and get it working as hard as possible for them.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing from the perspective of brand owners, that change of phrase, because when you see the algorithm, it kind of implies that there's one set thing Instagram wants you to do, and obviously we're getting more into like social media marketing, the marketing as a whole, but there tends to be a problem that happens that people try and do what Instagram wants them to do to build their brand, don't get the results, and then get very disappointed. As kind of, that's what me and Alex have been trying to take it back into our own hands a little bit and be like, okay, we're just going to post stuff that we would want to see and kind of flip it on its head, and that seems to be the one that gets more engagement, even though if you applied what we're posting to that, the algorithm mentality, it seems like we're doing it all completely wrong. I see what you mean.
And that's the thing, it's about your followers and the people you're targeting who you know are interested in what you do. And it's about serving them content that you know is going to be relevant to them. And this, I think the algorithm is all about relevancy. And you know that if you post something that's aligned to your followers' interests, then they're absolutely going to engage with it more than something that the algorithm tells you is the tick box exercise, the tick box thing to do. And I guess once you've put that content out there and it starts to build a bit of traction, you know you've kind of hit the nail on the head with it, and then it expands, and you know you start to engage with those people that are commenting, and it just expands from there. So although, like you say, we talk about the algorithm, I think every brand algorithm is still unique and will work in a way that's relevant to their audiences.
Yeah, and I think as well there's that thing of people are almost hyper aware now of when they're being sold to, and that's like an immediate almost turn off. Like if it's too like, oh, they're just whatever, it's an advert, people get like annoyed at it because people get bombarded with ads every day. So it's finding techniques where it's like you're still marketing to them, but they're not realizing it, and hopefully they're getting something out of it as well that they're actually interested in, to avoid it feeling like a kind of look at this, now give us money, and then you're left on the
absolutely. I think we're all so much more aware now of brands pushing things in our faces that maybe we don't want or we're not interested in. So I think it's so important that, you know, brands do kind of make that link. So how is my product, how is my service going to solve a problem for you, the person in the feed? How is this product going to change my life? How is it going to make me feel? And this is why it's so important for brands to have a real purpose, to have a real story, to have, you know, that kind of real meaning behind them, for people to actually want to buy into their brands when they see those adverts appear in their feed. I'm bombarded with online clothing brands within my feeds, and it's probably because I have a Boohoo account and I have purchased from Shein, and therefore you know other brands get wind of it and they'll target me based on my behaviour, and they're absolutely doing the right thing. But it takes 3 or 4 times for me to actually start to build a bit of trust with that brand. Sort of, who are they? What do they do? I probably would, if I see an item of clothing that I like on that ad, I might click on it the first time and have a little browse. I'll come away from it. Is their website secure? It could be anybody, right, that set up an ad campaign. It could be absolutely anybody in their back garden, you know, in their shed. You just don't know. And it might be that they're selling great products. However, it takes time to build trust with a brand. And it might be not until sort of the 4th or 5th time I then visit their website would I actually go through and maybe make a purchase.
Yeah, because it's that element of trust, and especially nowadays with stuff being fake and like elements of like, for all you know, that t-shirt brand could just be someone generating like AI images. You might end up with a, you know, everyone's like, when people were all very wary of like eBay, it was like you don't know what you're getting. Oh, there's someone who put up saying you get a Lamborghini, and then you pay $2,000 and it's a picture of a Lamborghini on an A4 bit paper, you know, that sort of thing. And it's, people are very wary still of like, one, that, or two, buying into a brand where yes, you may get the project, but you find out the brand has kind of some unethical elements to it that you weren't aware of, and then you find yourself kind of horrified that you've brought into a brand without realizing. So I think people are a lot more sort of guarded about things, and they want to make sure that if they're going to invest some money, because also we live in a time where people don't have a lot of spare money as well. If they're going to spend their money, then they want to spend it on something that is positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And people will come back. So if you sell a product that isn't what you promised, people will come back and they will tell their story to others online. They will, you know, they will write a review on your ads every time they then come up afterwards. Every time you retarget them, they will probably go to Google and pop a review on there as well. So, you know, it's about knowing that, you know, the power is in the consumer's hands as well. So if you are a brand who's trying to build, then you absolutely need to stay true to your brand and make sure that you are, you know, if you're giving this perception of quality, then make sure you're producing a quality item and charging the right price for it, the fair price and the price that the item's actually worth.
I guess that's kind of like, you know, there's and you're probably going to look at me and go, this is completely wrong, but we find that like the word of mouth marketing is super powerful in terms of like, it's just building connections and things, and they go and say, oh, I heard about that, because you know, even if the person themselves might not need one of our services, they probably run into someone who mentioned something. They go, oh, I was at this place the other day. So it kind of spreads around. But equally, the other way is that, you know, like say if you like deliver a poor service or a product that's not what you said it was, that also gets around. So it's equally as powerful the other way as well. Yeah,
so there's the positive versus negative sentiment, and the way that kind of is then pushed out to your potential audiences. So, and you're absolutely right. There's no more powerful marketing than word of mouth. It's the cheapest form of marketing. It's the most powerful and the most trusted, right? So I would absolutely buy from a brand that a friend has recommended rather than one that's just appeared in my feed that I know nothing about. I mean, it's the way we work as human beings. Again, going back to the people element, we trust the people around us to give us true feedback on products they're buying, and it's the most powerful and cheapest form. I think we tend to kind of forget that. So where there is opportunity to leverage loyalty, then we absolutely should. So where we've got customers, for example, that might be on your Facebook page, they are probably the ones that are more likely to defend your product. So if somebody's come on and made a bad comment on your page, for example, we often tend to see it where, you know, loyal customers will come and say, actually, I've not had that experience. I've had an awesome experience from this brand. You know, they will actually defend you and almost do your job for you. And that's when you kind of are allowed to step away from those conversations, because you don't need to have that engagement, because your loyal fans are there doing that for you.
And it's what I'm seeing is becoming increasingly as a kind of a knock-on of that idea of like social media and a two-way conversation. It's almost community building at some point, like, and that was becoming not just for brands that say they're community-led or community-focused. It's almost all brands, because even if you're targeting people on the other side of the world, it's still over the internet, and like you said, those people will jump in and defend and speak their mind.
And and they absolutely do, and I see it time and time again across all of my clients actually, where we don't always need to be involved in those conversations because others are doing it for us, and it's okay to step back from those ones, because there's going to be nothing more powerful than somebody that's actually bought that product to defend your brand. So therefore it's unnecessary, because then that conversation could potentially spiral if you jump in as a brand. And so it's about sort of gauging what that person's saying and making sure that you don't damage the sentiment that loyal customer's already building for you.
Which is kind of also ties in with getting people, like, how do you get people to that point where they're going to go out of their way to defend you? And one of the techniques that we see employed by different people, and even in this like little patch of recording however many podcasts we've done this week, is the story of the brand is becoming like increasingly important. And especially for like smaller businesses who don't have the budget to like flood Instagram with adverts or, you know, cover billboards, it's getting people to connect with them as a person, as part of the brand as well.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, there's a saying, isn't there, that a CEO is the brand. So it's almost like, say, for example, you think about Tesla. I wouldn't think about Tesla without thinking about Elon Musk. I wouldn't think about the Virgin brand without thinking about Richard Branson. And whether you like those characters or not, they are very much part of those brands. So you kind of, you need to kind of go with that, always have that in the back of your mind. So who are we? What do we stand for? What do we want? How do we want to sort of portray that through our branding and how we're actually telling our story to our prospects, to our customers? How are we using that to also drive loyalty? So it's all part of that journey. The story and the branding very much forms part of the whole journey and the loyalty building as well. So if you're, you know, a premium brand that's, for example, built a garden room that's cost thousands of pounds, and you know you finish the product, the customer's happy, how can you leverage that relationship with the customer? So, you know, you could potentially ask them to send some photographs in, create you a 5-star Google review. You can then leverage that content within your social media platforms, but not just that, but have that content, you know, across your website if it's of high enough quality. But then what do you then give back to that customer as a result? So maybe send them a bottle of wine or a hamper or something to say thank you. They will probably then take a picture of the hamper, put it on their stories and handle in the Garden Rooms company and say, you know, thank you very much. What a great experience we've had with you. We love our garden room, and thank you for the hamper or the flowers or whatever it is that you've sent us. So it's about leveraging that opportunity where you have a loyal customer to expand that out to your prospects. And it may be that you decide to use some of your customer photos in your paid advertising. That's okay. You can go a bit more raw on social. Social doesn't need to be absolutely polished. But this is where content's key. So where maybe you don't have that user-generated content and you're a brand that needs to be producing more of your own content, spaces like this are great. So the PHOTOMAFIA studio, you know, would be a great place to come and, you know, create content. And I think there'll be so much more demand for studios like this moving forward as you talk about the future of marketing.
Yeah, which even we've been seeing as it's going along, and like one of kind of the nice unintended effects, obviously the other half of the room is like classic standard white backdrop, like professional photography studio, but this side of the room is always, and you saw how it was before and like now how it is now, we've always tried to keep an element of it being slightly, and I think the word you used when you walked in, you're like, oh, it's funky, which has benefited us because people who are making content don't want, you know, like some of the other studios that me and Alex have used, which can either feel very clinical or feel kind of like, so there's the corner with all the stuff in, and then it's like basically an abandoned room that doesn't look too good. So having a space that kind of looks and feels inviting for people who are using, and people have already started using like this space up here as an area to make content and make film reels in, because it's another thing where they can then go, oh, well, we're making this reel, and then if we do it up here, we can tag your account in, and then you share it, and then it becomes a bit of cross-pollination there immediately, as opposed to when they use the white backdrop, where it's like, oh, do we really need to mention you? It's like, it's just a white wall, really, isn't it? And it's like, well, yeah, fair enough. But
it gives you that opportunity, though, to... So, when I walked in today, like you said, the first thing, like, it's quirky, it's cool, it's a comfortable environment. So I think as, you know, content producers, specialists, whoever might be using the space, it's important for them to come in, feel comfortable, feel like they can be themselves and create content that allows them to be sort of fluid and comfortable.
And it's generally people who are coming here to make stuff are creative people because they make stuff, so the space should reflect that, and it should feel like a creative space to, you know, get the best out of them.
And just going back to the raw content idea that I was saying about social media, so the fact that on social it's okay to have content that's a bit more raw, so maybe not your sort of white background polished content that you might be using on your website or other channels, but within social you do have that sort of flexibility, a bit more raw. The kind of backgrounds and things like here are great because you can, you've just got your behind the scenes shots that feel a bit more natural, feel a bit more human.
100%. And that's something actually, like, we've kind of battled with, that idea of like, well, it's social media, so it can be a bit more raw. It doesn't have to be a big, huge production budget, which obviously for some photographers that becomes an issue for them, because brands are going, well, it's only for socials, because could you just make it look a little bit more, iPhone-ish? And then also the challenge of like a lot of like the photography landscape's changing, because people are finding what they wanted before is actually just stuff for social media, which social media, for whatever reason, even though Instagram was designed for photography, doesn't respond too well to straight up photography. It's like the functionality of photography is changing. And for us as a photo studio that also offers our photo services, it's kind of strange to be like, oh, we need to put something out there that doesn't feel like super professional photography, like super polished, even though super polished stuff is a service we provide and want to promote. So it's that balance of like, oh, can we, like a coffee shop, you can post like fun little phone videos and phone photos, but if we do it, does that kind of confuse the message a little bit? So it's kind of striking that balance of like, okay, how do we do a slightly elevated version of, or a version where they don't get, if we're taking a quick behind the scenes picture of someone using our studio, they don't get the impression that that picture was meant to be like a really good, proper professional photo that we took, and then they go, oh, but that photo wasn't as good as, and it starts kind of, it's a different ballgame. So I was going to ask how you found, because you obviously advise other people how to do their marketing. What about your own for Cyclone, and what kind of challenges do you face? Because
it's like you say, it's all about having that balance. So where, for example, we're shooting polished content for clients that they predominantly will use on their website, we will always ask that we have a portrait version of that same content shot, so we can repurpose for social. So I like to have that balance in the feeds where we are seen as being professional. However, we are also human. We're also, normal. We are, we're a business, for example. So I'm talking about this from a client perspective. So, every business needs to have an element of normality to it, not just about the polished content, because that's not real world, is it? It's kind of the old Insta, isn't it? Where it's like Insta versus reality. But actually, it's not all about Insta and reality. It's about having that blend and actually saying we are, we're good people to work with. We're an easy brand. We are, we're professional, but we are also human, and have that balance as well. So I think, definitely. But from my perspective, and from where I do some of my own marketing, I like to have my face in front of the camera, because it's about building that trust, isn't it? And that's where some of the like less polished content becomes more important when you're doing your face to camera, when we're doing this type of thing. When I literally have my handheld piece, it's about sort of putting your personal brand, your personality into the brand. So I very much talk on behalf of Cyclone Marketing as Tanya Whymark. So, and a lot of clients will say to me, well, do we not need to set up LinkedIn brand pages, or like how do we go about LinkedIn, for example? I'm not sure how much you know about LinkedIn, but
a little bit
about I kind of see it's a professional professional space. It's it's a professional version of Facebook, if you like, although they would kill me if they never say that. But in a way, it's it is very much a space where you can sort of talk about the work you've been doing as an individual, but then how do you link that to the brand? So the way I've set mine up is I've got my Cyclone Marketing umbrella page, but actually I'm communicating on behalf of Cyclone Marketing, but as Tanya Whymark, because I think it's that people and people do business with people. So, you know, what is a business made of? It's made up of people. So it's very much about creating your own personal brand and having that real content that people can resonate with as you as a person on behalf of a brand. And about having that mix of polished versus non-polished content, I think. Yeah,
which is and you're 100% right with that. The unpolished content is also, or posting polished content when it's meant to be unpolished is very kind of old Instagram, because because like in my like sort of previous point, there's probably people going, well, isn't the solution then just to take the same content but produce polished images? The problem is you then post that and it's 2 likes, no one sees it, and it's not being pushed. So it's like, okay, so that we can produce stuff that we think is, you know, representative, but it's not being seen, versus stuff that we're like had those questions about. But I think as we've kind of dabbled with that more unpolished experimentation, and it resonates a lot more, and actually maybe it was kind of a issue that we built for ourselves.
I do find that I think when the polished content goes out, you tend to get less engagement because people know it's not real. They know that you set it up for a photo shoot and it's maybe not really what they're going to get. So so it makes sense what you say around, you know, engagement being low on content like that, and I have seen it and witnessed it probably more now than ever before. I think 5 years ago you'd have got away with it, but now you can't so much. I think people they're so familiar now with the whole look and feel of AI, and the way that things are becoming more polished than polished. People are just more aware, so they're just steering away from any of that and going towards the more sort of real live content and more video content and photography as well.
And I think because at some point we as a brand, we have to post examples of work we've done, obviously, because otherwise it's kind of like, oh, you're photographers, but we haven't seen any of the images. But the way we've kind of tackled that kind of thing where people see it and they're going, oh, okay, next, is obviously Instagram. You also have the benefit of a caption where you can write pretty much as you want, and turning that into the way of generating the connection and talking about that, the shoot and the image example and then using the caption to go into a bit more of the behind the scenes and what happened and why we're posting it now, which is why we try and post stuff we're doing as currently as possible and not stuff from 3 years ago and being like, there you go, and people are like seeing it.
The thing is, if you're shooting content for a magazine, for example, you need to find a way of showcasing that. So the content is going to be polished because it's going into, you know, the front cover of a magazine, for example. So therefore, the content you're going to have is going to look like the polished content. So therefore, when you pop that on your social media, it looks like, oh, this is really polished content. And it is, because that's part of the service that we offer, like you say. And that's okay, like say, as long as you explain that within your content, then people know the aim of what you're trying to do. Well, it may be,
the solution there is that we found is, if it is like you say a magazine cover or something like that, you don't post the image, you post the magazine, and it's still the image, but just the fact that they can see the edges of the magazine and the coffee table you've placed it on and snapped it, suddenly double the engagement, because people are like, oh my god, they actually did something. It's turned into something tangible.
So it's about having that background content. So the behind the scenes content that people tend to resonate more with on social.
And how do you, there's a lot of talk of consistency, especially in, like, again, the social media space, which we're also finding a few people who have spoken about. There's like 2 camps, people who are like, consistency is everything, queue it up to go out within a minute of each other every couple of days or however you do it. And then there's people like, just post when you do something actually interesting and not just trying to fill in gaps with meaningless
You're talking
nonsense.
About feeding the algorithm.
A little bit,
so they say, the platforms say that consistency is key, but it's about having that consistency for your brand. So there's not like one book that fits all. from what I've learned and the things that I've experienced across the clients that I've been working with. So although there's the sort of ideal on Instagram post 2 to 3 times a week, for some brands that will absolutely work. For some brands it won't. It depends on the level of engagement that you get when those posts go out. So if your first post of the week goes out on a Monday and you get very low engagement, if you put another one out on Tuesday or Wednesday, the likelihood is your content is then not going to get served to enough of your audience because you're being penalised for the first post that went out on Monday that didn't perform very well. So it's about learning your own sort of algorithm, learning your own algorithm to make sure that you're feeding your own feeds in the right way.
Yeah.
So, you know, you post on a Monday and you try and get that engagement up as much as possible. You know, your top fans and followers will probably engage, make sure you respond, even if it's just a thumbs up and thanks for your comment. And then maybe try again on the Wednesday or Thursday. It's about testing and learning over a period of time to understand what's resonating better in terms of your content and sort of playing the algorithm a bit to understand it. Rather than saying, okay, well, you know, the book says I need to post 2 to 3 times a week. I need to absolutely make sure I post those 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But if your first 2 posts haven't done well in terms of engagement, your third post will absolutely flop. Yeah.
Which we've definitely experienced, like those things, because it can, the trap of the consistency thing is like, especially when you don't have a plan or fully realise like, oh, this is the type of things we should be posting. You're just kind of, well, seeing what sticks, right? It's just throw something out there. It's just like, we just need something. Yeah. We'll figure it out. And it's just, that's the type of stuff where it tends, people can feel that. Yeah. And they go, yeah, okay, good. Like, like, yeah, sure, some of your like top fans will still be like, okay, yeah, we'll go along with it. But most people, and especially new people, are just going to be like, and that's going to be the one that then, knock-on effect for when you're like, oh, okay, you've like set yourself up fail for when something really important happens that should be like a big, like loads of engagement, but actually you get kind of nothing because it comes going, well, they didn't like the last lot, so we're not going to bother with that one. Yeah, exactly. But once you've found that sweet spot, then you're absolutely right. It is then about consistency, because you might get to that point where 1 or 2 posts work for you. But again, it's about content. So if your first post goes out and the content's not resonating with your audience, then you're not going to get that engagement. Yeah. So it's about having that, you know, really thinking about what you're putting out there and why you're doing it. And then it's also okay to ask your top followers to, you know, drop them a note to say, would you mind sharing the content on your feed? We're all human. It's okay to ask a question. What's the worst they can say? No. It will help your performance because you're sort of being seen as more preferable, more likeable, more engageable. So, and I suppose the other thing is actually engaging with other people's content as well, and like returning that favor. Like, and I feel like so the way it works with us here, obviously I have a personal Instagram page, which is for my own photography and the more art side of things, and in that space it seems perfectly acceptable for me to go and comment on another artist's stuff and go, hey, this is really cool, and they comment back, and it becomes like, because it's person to person, but that should really still apply to the brand itself, even though it feels a little bit more strange, because I think we have a perception of like, if you're Coca-Cola, you shouldn't be commenting on people's stuff, but actually that is what they're starting to do. Like, you only have to look at, and one who seems to have really cracked it is like Duolingo. Yes, like, they are awesome. Oh my god, they seem to have figured it out, and like they had a recent post, and their comments are all from these like huge brands that their social media team are going, we can. They almost feels like Duolingo's given them the pass to be like, okay, we can be a bit more fun on social media rather than trying to be like. Because I think people do still get a bit scared of it when it comes to brands and companies, because it's like, oh, but if we do the slightly wrong thing, it could totally crash the image we've like tried to build up. And you've got to think about the people who are managing the community for these big brands. They are they're people like you and I, and they have brand guidelines, and they have to stick to them. So if they do anything that's slightly outside the box, there's a chance they're going to get their backsides whipped, right? Because it's not you know, it's not on brand. You've not used the right tone. You've kind of gone off piece. You know,
they're probably worried about those things as well. And something that's happening like the here and now on a Duolingo post, for example, by the time somebody at a big company like Coca-Cola, for example, goes through loops and hoops their sides to get approval on a post they're about to post, the sentiment's gone.
Yeah.
So it's about being present at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, because
which can be challenging for big brands.
Yeah, especially when, like you said earlier, like there's so many checks and balances, and
but
there's a reason for that. But also, social media kind of just flies in the face of that, which is great for smaller brands and companies because it gives you, it almost in a weird way slightly levels it off, because you know, for me and Alex, if we want to do something, it only has to go through me and Alex.
Absolutely.
Like, as long as we're both like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, let's try it.
Yeah.
As a Coca-Cola, there's probably 10 times as many, if not more, who have to kind of go, ooh, are we sure about this? And then by that time, me and Alex have done it 10 times over.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So I think for brands
advantage.
like PHOTOMAFIA and for Cyclone marketing, we have that flexibility to be out there, to be engaging, to be, you know, communicating with other people, other brands, and that's okay. I think we sometimes tend to think too much about what we're doing and why we're doing it, but it's okay. It's okay to be out there and engaging. It's only going to help your overall algorithm, your performance. It's going to, you know, get you in front of more people. So absolutely, why not?
Yeah, 100%. And people do. But I think because it feels like such a weird thing to have a brand say, like, comment on your post.
Yeah.
People do kind of like it a little bit,
Yeah.
so they're like, oh, that's kind of
gives them
special.
a bit of
like
kudos, for example. Yeah, you're right, actually. I would feel the same way. I think if a brand was to comment on my personal content, it would be a bit of a, I don't know, a bit rewarding in a way. Yeah,
it has a different effect than if, you know, oh, I know Jerry works for this huge brand, but it's Jerry did it on his personal account. Cool. Like, oh, thanks, brand. But like, if
exactly.
you know, if it came from the brand itself, it's a different experience.
It's a bit more credible, isn't it?
Yeah.
When something actually comes from the brand. I guess there's only just a person behind that brand, but still there's that perception of something it being a bit something more than that.
Yeah, and it may even be that they forgot to switch social media accounts before they commented,
but
it's still
before,
it all
Posted
feels so different. Yeah.
But that's the beauty of social media. Whatever you've put out there, you can edit it, you can take it down, you can archive it.
Yeah.
Whereas if something's gone into press, you're too late. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's out there.
Yeah, I've worked in press advertising in the past as part of my media mix. And it's nerve-wracking because you've got your deadlines. Once the deadlines have gone, you've submitted it. There's no changing it. It's once it's gone, it's gone. So it used to be quite time-consuming actually. And sometimes I wouldn't sleep at night thinking, oh God, that's going into press. Did I check this? Did I check the grammar? Did I check the spelling? Have I got the initial caps in the right places? Because there will always be one that picks something up along the way.
Yeah.
So different world now that we're working in.
Yeah, because as well, social media, it doesn't cost to make a post. It's time, or it costs to hire someone to do it. But press stuff, if it's going out into a newspaper, you can't call the newspaper and be like, hey, could you reprint the entire thing? You know what I mean? And it's huge. Yeah, as we print our books as well, that feeling is very relatable. It's like that.
I can imagine.
Oh God, if there's a little spelling mistake in there that I haven't caught, or
so what books do you produce? Like, what are you actually producing as a company or individual?
Yeah, so really this area we're sat in now is a bookshop. So not all of these have been sort of, me and Alex have been involved directly with the production of. So there are some, like, this is one of my ones, but published by someone else. There's some self-published ones dotted around, but a lot of them are from local photographers, but also photographers around the world as well. So we're trying to bring
all sort of content and photography.
Yeah, so they're all photo
based.
books.
Right,
so
okay.
some have and the nice part of being worried about spelling mistakes, some have no words in at all. So that's nice. But yeah, and it's just a small. It's a niche in the world of books of, like, I'm sure you've seen like coffee table books as well.
Yeah.
So not all photo books are these huge £100 hardback editions.
Ones that you can't just throw into your handbag.
Yeah.
and have a look through on the train. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we cater from all the way down to like small zines that there are only 20 of to all the way up that we've got shipping. So we've been building this since, well, the last time you came around we were working on it in the background. Now it's come to fruition. So photo books, because we're a photo studio, we host exhibitions. So on the exhibition days, that side of the room is no longer a photo studio. There's nothing in it apart from art on the walls and installation. So it's at that point we're essentially an art gallery. And the bookshop is it was really interesting when you were talking earlier about like leveraging customer loyalty, because we were at the end of last year going through like and doing that thing where it was like, oh, let's have a look and see who else we can find, concentrating on our studio hire and our photographic services. And I was like, okay, so have we looked through our like who's following us at the moment? Because I'm sure there's some other brand accounts in there that are following us that have never like made contact. And obviously I'm finding one, but then in between each one I'm finding there's 10 other people that follow us. And I'm like, who are these guys? And they're like people who come to the exhibitions who aren't photographers. They're just interested in art and culture. And they don't, their aunt or their mum's brother's dog might need a photo shoot or a studio hire at some point, but them directly, we see them once a month when we do an exhibition show and they come hang out. They're like, we love what you're doing. It's so cool. This is wicked. I'm glad there's this in Northampton. And for me and Alex's personal selves, it's like, yes, cool, that's what we want to do. But for the brand's development and also the brand's bank account, we saw no direct kind of benefit from that. So it was giving a way for those people who come to all the events and really love what they're doing to actually support us through it and have a way to support us, because there's people who, and we were talking to about it, like, I've been coming to every event because I want to support you, but I have no other way to support you. It's like I can turn up to everything, I can like content on Instagram, I can share it, but there's no way to support that develops into me and Alex then growing it further. So people then kind of get that thing of like, well, I'm coming to all these things and they're not, oh, is this the limit of it? They then think, and it's like, no, we're still growing. So for this way, it's like now we have the books from some of the exhibitions, from the artists, from other local artists that you may not even know are from here and stuff. And it's another way of showing off the art community and seeing that, I say exists in Northampton, but like I said, there's stuff from the rest of the world as well. But these are people that still work with people who are from Northampton, and it's giving young artists that idea of like, oh, okay, even though I live in Northampton that doesn't have the best reputation, I'm not limited to like stuff here that also kind of people get a bit down on it, especially creatives going, oh, well, I've got to move to London because there's nothing here. And it's like, well, have you thought about this? And it's because, they don't know it exists, or they don't have the confidence to reach out to someone who's on the other side of the planet. But you realise these small art communities exist all over the world.
And that's the thing. And that's a great way to put it, that I think a lot of maybe young people from the local area might think that their career is limiting because of where they are. But the world is a different place now, isn't it?
100%.
We've got an SEO expert that's working on one of our projects for 3 months. He's living in Kuala Lumpur. He's able to do the work. Really? He's able to deliver. He's driving awesome results. So you can be anywhere in the world.
Well, in the world of it all being online as well,
absolutely.
you can, talk to people. I mean, Instagram, and this is the best feature on Instagram, in my opinion, automatically translates messages. So, we have a publisher in Japan that sends us stuff, and he doesn't speak English.
Right.
So, because I wanted to do a podcast with him, and he was like, I don't speak. And then it occurred to me that Instagram was just changing the messages for me without me having to open up Google Translate, change it, go back and stuff. So it's just and then we can have a dialogue that it results in bringing stuff to Northampton and helping them out as well. And it's just bringing all that together in one place and going, this is what's possible.
Yeah. So although I say that, I think Northampton is very much an up-and-coming place as well. I think that they're,
100%.
just from seeing the development in the town over the last sort of 15 years, you can see that, there's a lot of investment going into the town and, the opportunities will come. But even if they don't, there's the whole world out there, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it is a developing place, and me and Alex have seen that from like growing up here. It's like, I think when we were kids and people complaining about it, like, yes, it was a different place, but here we and Alex are lucky enough to be at like kind of right place, right time, where we built this stuff just before, and now we're seeing more opportunity come our way. But that's also down to the fact that me and Alex have put this out there. That's why we're seeing it, because we're kind of like put out this lighthouse on through Instagram channels and stuff that kind of other people, like you walking into the marketing guy's office and saying, hey, I'm interested in this, he's then like comes back to you because it's like, well, you already work here, you cool.
I think in life, if you've got the drive and the determination, nothing can really stop you from being successful. I think, sometimes you need a little bit of financial support behind you, but not always. I think if you've got a skill that you can hone in on, like photography, like videography, if you've got a practical skill, leverage it, as long as you've got that drive and determination, you can't blame the location.
No, absolutely not. And as well, it's, it's giving something that location needs, and then suddenly it's a thing there, I mean? Like, me and Alex would have loved to have, because our thing is just like, if we think, obviously within brand logic, if we think it will be something we'd be interested in, like, we'd do that thing. As like, for these types of books that we stock, before, the closest thing was like Manchester, and there was like little kind of pockets of London, but not really what we were after and things. So we were like, well, why not bring it here? And we met the people through the exhibitions who are producing that kind of stuff. Like, why not double down on that and bring it together? So it's like, it's not the location that limits you, it's just showing people that,
what you're doing.
It's there.
And the thing is, the people that walk through these doors when you do these exhibitions, I guess you don't know who they are, what their background is, who they're connected to, what kind of career they might have had before they step into this room. And I think that's so important, because I've actually been very lucky in my business so far, and ironically, I haven't had to actually do much of my own marketing, although I'm a marketeer. I've been too busy doing everybody else's. But that's because I was fortunate in the fact that all of my work to date has come through word of mouth.
Very similar situation.
Obviously, people will check out my website and my LinkedIn profile, because you see who's visited your LinkedIn profile. You then may get that email that comes through, or that phone call. But it's all been detriment to my career to date. So I think it's really important, when people are working for those corporate companies or working for somebody else, build your connections. Always be nice, always be human, always have that kind of thought in the back of your mind that you don't know when your paths might cross these people again in your future. But for me, it's absolutely rang true. And I think that's probably why, what I'm doing now has majority of it has come through word of mouth. And I'm not saying it will always be like that. It might get to a point where I do need to really sort of use my own marketing skills to drive my own marketing. But you just don't know who's walking through those doors and who they're connected to. And at what point that then might bring you more opportunity as well to grow. Yeah,
and I think you only find out by talking to them. And being human and not trying to be in their face, like trying to be like, okay, who are you? Oh, don't know about that. Okay, you go back to it. It's just like talking to people, because also a habit, and I didn't apparently talking to other people, it's like a quirk of Northampton is everyone's a bit secretive and everyone's a bit kind of hides what they do and doesn't really shout. You find out you've known someone for 5 years, and then they're like, oh yeah, I do this thing, and it was like, why didn't you tell me? Where were you? Like, where have you been hiding? Which is, I guess a quirk. But I've worked with an SEO expert in the past, and still do actually.
And he's got this sort of thing in his mind where he says, oh, you know, as long as your website's absolutely on point, you just need to plough all your efforts into SEO, into like organic search, and people will find you and you'll generate leads. But I'm not fully convinced. I think there's a lot of networking that needs to happen. You need to build your own profile. You need to be likable. You want people to buy into you as well as your brand. And that doesn't just work across what I'm doing as Cyclone, Tanya working on behalf of Cyclone Marketing. It's in every brand. It's about, you know, becoming a likable brand that people want to work with, people want to buy from.
And I guess if people want to work with a brand that they can be proud to be like associated with, so it doesn't have to be, and in the, like, it's one thing as, you know, we're photographers to provide good images, but if on top of that they can go, we've got these really good images and they do something interesting as well that aligns with our values, that's when you have a relationship that's a lot more solid.
And they're nice people to work with, and they're easy to work with, and they're flexible, and they helped us in the studio where we need. So it's all these things working together that are going to build that loyalty, and then that loyalty in turn will hopefully drive word of mouth, which then builds your network and makes you stronger. Not everything's going to come in that way through word of mouth, and that's why, you know, businesses need to invest in different marketing platforms to, you know, grow their awareness, build their top of funnel, and, you know, over time convert. It works both ways, but it's about where you do have the ability to leverage your services through your own network, then, you know, it's absolutely gold. No,
100%. Is there anything else you want to touch upon before we wrap up?
I think we've covered a lot, haven't we?
And it's been interesting to hear your perspective on kind of how it's changing and what people should be doing, and just interesting stuff.
I guess, like, what's your kind of what's your plan for PHOTOMAFIA and the business? Like, how do you kind of have a goal for where you want to be in kind of 3 to 5 years? Do you kind of see yourself having a bigger studio or another studio? Or because I guess from what you're doing, there is so much opportunity, isn't there? But you just need the people to be able to manage it and to grow it in that way.
I think without giving too much away while we're still recording, the plan is becoming more concrete as time goes on. So because we started this out of uni, obviously, you know, 21, literally making enough money to split the rent between those of us that were a part of it, and then keep the lights on for another month so we could keep going. I mean, you saw it at what we thought at the time was like, okay, this is how we want the studio, and then obviously now it's completely added, you know, another level to it. And, you know, when it started, it was like, I mean, it took us 4 months to get the infinity curve in there, right? So at that point, it was like basically a room with 2 desks in it, and me and Alex had our laptops, like getting stuff done, running around, doing photo shoots, build that, and then so it's been kind of
it's an evolution, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in such a short space of time, there's such a difference. So it just shows you what 6 months can do.
Oh, yeah, big time, especially when you kind of put it. And I think as we've gone on, it's like having that bit of confidence and being like, because for some people, it is like, what do you mean? You're a photographer and you run a bookshop. Like, it's such a jump. But when for PHOTOMAFIA is, it makes complete sense. And everything works together in like a sort of circle, and they each feed into each other. So in terms of expansion, we're not planning on adding a zoo or something mad, you know what I mean? We'll see, maybe, you never know. But yeah, so it's hard to say. In each of the 5 different directions, there's plans for how they'll evolve and how they'll grow and how we can build upon them and when we'll build upon them. But it's also reliant on what's important to the community at the time. So this was an expansion of the exhibitions, really. And because the exhibitions were doing really well, we were like, okay, how do we invest a little bit more into that area? So we added this, we changed how our exhibition schedule works, which is, you know, benefited us massively and made the exhibitions better for everyone coming. And like you say, like, like something like getting a bigger studio, as we're building up the studio hire, there will inevitably come a day where it's like, hey, could I book a 1 hour session? It's like 6 months time, sure. Like, and at that point it's like, okay, we need to get, luckily we're in a building with loads of rooms, so it's like we could expand in that direction. But for right now, we're kind of still enjoying the bookshop and building that up, because like we spoke about coffee table books and stuff like that. So at the moment we've got the working skeleton of it, and it's reassuring people like this isn't finished yet. It's functioning in a way that's testing the waters, because if we got to this point and no one wanted the books, we can still pretty much send everything back, pay things off, and we could turn this area into something else. Like we could still have a use out of it, even though it's like a big project. But luckily everyone's like loving the bookshop, ordering stuff, coming in, buying things, wanting more. So then it's like building that up to a point where it stands as like a place to get really interesting books and really
it sounds
cool
like
books.
You've taken those opportunities for growth at the right points in time. You haven't sort of been ahead of yourself and said, like, let's create this amazing studio and then see what happens. You've grown with it, which feels like a really sensible way of doing things.
Yeah.
And I've kind of done the same with my business as well. So I've been asked recently, someone asked me a question, one of my clients, how do you plan to grow your business? Like, what's your kind of strategic goal? Sort of throwing it back the other way. And I was like, wow, I don't often get asked questions like that. It's normally me asking those same questions the other way around. And I kind of said, do you know what? I've got to that point where I have a good work-life balance, and that was always the aim. It was to be able to work with businesses where I could make a difference. I could work full-time hours and not get to the point where I am having to work weekends, having to overburn, because I'm a mother as well. So I've got to that point where my diary's pretty much full, unless a client drops off at some point. And it's saying, well, what do I do next? How do I grow this business? And there is absolutely opportunity for it to grow, but it's about, am I actually ready for that? Yeah. And people say, are you crazy? Like, if you've got a business that has the opportunity to grow, why wouldn't you do it? And it's saying, well, what do I actually want personally from it?
Yeah. And one of the best pieces, one of the best pieces of advice we got when we were looking around rooms, it was one of our technicians at the university who we're still friends with. He's coming in a bit, but he basically was like, when you do things like this, it's like defining what success means for you.
Exactly that.
And for some people it's like, well, we should be aiming to be like the stereotypical, like, want to be the biggest company in the world doing this with 1 million employees. But it's like, that's not everyone's desire because it is stressful and like ridiculous. It's like finding a balance that works for you, because at the end of the day it's like you've still got to live a life as well, and it doesn't always, it's not a one size fits all, right?
And I think having ambition is really important, and having that goal at the top is great, and having that mindset where you say, I'd love to be the biggest photography studio in the world or the biggest marketing agency in the world, but it's about saying, well, how do I get there? And having like realistic goals that are actually going to get you there in a set period of time. And some people might want to absolutely fast track that and work all the hours God sends and give themselves, that additional pressure. And that's great if that's what they want to do. But I guess I'm at that point where I like to be sensible about it. And it might be that once my children are both old enough to walk themselves to and from school, I become a bit more fierce with it, and and they say, right, I need to employ people and have them under the Cyclone marketing umbrella, rather than actually hiring experts to work with me on projects. Actually have them as like full-time staff. So I'm kind of at that point now where it's great that I've got that opportunity to grow the business as and when I'm ready to. But I'm got to that point where I'm working the hours that I wanted to work, and that was always the ambition. So
which is
but
exactly,
it's all good fun, isn't it? Trying to set those
and
goals.
It's a maze, and it's interesting, and I think that's the nice thing about not trying to fast track it, because if you fast track in the wrong direction, or like something where you're still, like you say, every day is a school day, and for us we're also learning about different areas and things, and like, you know, there's still different types of photography we've never done, like never been underwater yet. That could come up, and if you're
brilliant.
But if you jump ahead and add that stress, you're then less open to different opportunities, because it's like, oh, that's going to add a spanner in the work, that's going to be too much. It's like taking a back seat, and then that kind of eases it up. I think we're being rushed on.
No, that's okay.
No
that's
worries.
good. No, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's been really interesting. Thank you for coming down.
No, that's my pleasure.
But and where can people find you, just for?
So my website is cyclonemarketing.co.uk. I'm on Instagram, Cyclone Marketing UK. I'm Tanya Whymark. So if anybody wants to reach out and talk about their marketing challenges, and if they're not seeing the business results that they are hoping to be achieving with the budgets they're spending, then happy to have that conversation with them to try and improve things.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cool.